actually, the idea of a free system has come up.
This is going to be good.
At different times, folks have different rationales for that. We did have a Fairless Square in downtown Portland at one time, and TriMet was one of the first transit agencies in the country to try that experiment.
Went on for 20 years.
Others followed, and so I wanted to take a little bit of time and just review kind of our thinking and assessment of the benefits and costs of a Fairless system, and then sort of talk about the experience that others have had and sort of our perspective on whether that makes sense or not for TriMet.
Okay, just a second here. Let's just adopted in 1975 to combat limited parking and airless pollution. Air pollution. Fairless Square encompassed an area of downtown. On April 1977, it was expanded to market. In 2001, it was extended again. 2009, and let's see, they ended it completely. So it went for 75, 85, 99, 35 fucking years. They had Fairless Square before neoliberal Nazi Neil McFarlane decided to start squeezing every penny out of the riders in 2011.
And so, by the way, if you're following...
Notice how he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that we had in a Fairless Square for 35 years in Portland. He didn't say that. That's important to say that, but he didn't.
With the materials that were sent out, I've changed the order and modified a couple of slides, so don't get confused if things aren't flowing in your packet exactly the way they are here on the screen. So here are the topics that I wanted to cover. Just review TriMet's existing fares and discount programs. Look at some of the other free systems around the country and how we compare with those. Talk a little bit about, from our perspective, who would benefit from a free system in the TriMet case, assuming that there wasn't an offsetting increase in resources from outside the agency. Look at where our customers are in terms of their priorities relative to free service versus other things that attract riders to the system, such as expanded service. Touch a little bit on the Get Moving 2020 measure, which has a proposal for a youth transportation pass program, and then just touch on a couple of policy questions that come out of this overall discussion. So unless there are any questions about the topics, I'll go ahead and launch in and just let folks know I'm going to march forward. And so, and I can't, from the view that I'm looking at, I can't see hands raised. So I would just encourage folks to unmute and ask questions as we go along, interrupt me, and I'll be happy to answer any of those questions. So real quick review of TriMet's fare structure. We have no zone, so we have a one zone system. We used to have a multi-zone system where we charged, the farther you traveled, the more we would charge. We've changed that policy. It makes it simpler for the riders. There is an equity element to that, which is that folks who travel farther, they're subsidized by the...
No, stop. I'm paying attention here. When they got rid of the zone system, they increased the fare for everybody. Because you used to be able to get an 80-cent. I was there, so I know this, okay? You could get an 80-cent short hopper fare. You just want to go down the street, 80 cents. You could get a one-zone fare, $2. And they got rid of all those zones, and they implemented the highest fare possible at the time, which was $2.50 for everybody. No matter how far you went, you had to pay $2.50. Yes, that helped out the people going long distances, but it penalized everybody taking short trips, and it was really a horrible thing to do to implement the highest fare possible at that time for everybody. It was neoliberal Neil McFarlane. It went along with getting rid of the fair was square. It's a money grab. That's what it was. He's not going to tell you that because he's a paid bureaucrat to lie to you. I remember what happened. I was there. Okay? I was there.
Folks who travel short distances. We made this change really after or midway through a lot of the gentrification that has pushed low-income families out of inner city neighborhoods. So the net result is that this change now really does benefit those lower income and minority households that are on the outskirts or inner ring suburbs.
It helps one class at the cost of another class. It's not equitable. It's the opposite of equity.
Who have to travel farther distances to get to their destinations. Unlike a lot of cities, we don't have a differential for our light rail system. Many cities have a higher cost.
That's right. Most cities don't have all of them.
Fare for their light rail systems. Those systems that have rail that goes to the airport, a lot of them charge additional for that. We don't.
Nope.
Some systems now charge peak hour pricing.
We don't.
This is kind of like congestion.
And you know why they don't do that? Because nobody will ride in Portland. They have to give rail riders a discount. They have to give West riders a discount because if they don't do it, nobody's going to ride it. And they know that.
Pricing for transit. We don't do that on our system. Our system is a flat fare across all hours. We offer a 2.5-hour transfer window. That's quite generous compared to most systems.
Yes, true.
Most systems max out at 2 hours. And the reason for that is that the transfer is really intended to provide for...
and let's stop, because he's not telling you the truth. It was Opal, Bus Riders Unite, that fought for the increased transfer time.
For extending a one-way trip, as opposed to allowing folks a two-way trip. And the 2.5-hour window actually does provide that you can take two trips, essentially.
That's not what happened,
out
folks.
and back.
That's a lie.
On one fare.
That's not true. Okay, it's a blatant lie. Okay, I was there. I've been paying attention to this shit for 20 years. Okay, just like Pootie's taking his class, paying attention. That's what I've been doing here. I've been paying attention to them for 20 years straight. I know when they're lying, believe me.
And then the thing that is really unique about our fare system is that we have fare capping, and that's only possible.
Okay, they were one of the first to do it. Now it's done all in lots of places. It was done in Europe and other places before here, but that's a positive on their end. That's a good thing. I'm not going to argue against that. Of course, that's, you have to have the hop card and all that. And it has to be in your name and blah, but okay, it's good. Speaking of that, I've been purchasing hop cards for one of my buddies who just got out of jail. I haven't heard from him in days, so I better text him.
Possible, given the structure of our hop program, where we store the value of the card at a central computer. It's not stored on the card, the physical card itself. It's stored at a central computer. And we can tell if you've tapped twice in a day. And your third ride then would be free. And we extend that fare capping over the course of the month. And so the cumulative effect of that is that if you're a regular rider, you can get up to 72% off of the cost of riding for the month, off the face value of a daily pass or a single ticket.
All right.
In other words, you can buy a monthly pass, one trip at a time. So we give you the volume discount of the month, even though you may not have the money at the beginning of the month to pay for an entire pass. And we're, if not the only transit system that allows that or provides that, we're one of only 2 or 3 in the country.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Just a quick overview of what our fare revenue, this is actually last year, does not reflect COVID impacts. So it's more of a typical year. We have over $100 million in fare revenue that goes into the operating side of the account. Most of that, 85% of it is adult fares. Just under 10% of it is
stop. He
honored
said he's
citizens.
the only one. He said he's the only one. Well, he's not. There's 11 cities. London was the first. They started in 2014 before TriMet. Miami's the most recent. St. Louis, Sydney, Indianapolis. Indianapolis has it. San Jose, Oakland, AC, Portland seems to have the most flexible payment. Okay, Victoria, Australia. Houston has it too. So there's 11, but okay, that's good.
And in our system, low-income fare and youth are lumped into the honored citizen category, but this is the revenue that comes from the elderly and disabled community portion of the honored citizen. About 4% comes from youth and $1 million from the LIFT program, and about $1 million from the low-income fare program. That's going up over time. That the rest of these revenue are relatively steady amounts, but the low-income fare, because of the recent implementation of that, is growing.
All right, you see this here. Fare revenue, $90.8 million adult, $10 million honored citizen, $4.2 million youth, $1 million LIFT, and $1 million low income. Total $107 million. What's the date? I missed it.
If you look at our fare cost over time, we haven't really raised fares since 2020 or 2012. And in fact, for youth fares, we've reduced it. We reduced it by 40 cents in 2014. So our revenue, our cost of fare has been very, very stable and flat since 2009, essentially. If you look at like the City of Portland's water utility fee, which is also an essential service, it's climbed significantly over that same period of time. If you look at electrical costs in Oregon, those have also risen over time, another essential utility. So compared to other utilities, particularly essential utilities, we've maintained our costs for a long, long time without making any increases, and in fact, decreasing the youth fare.
Yeah, I know, it's true. But in 2012, like I told you already, they did increase the fares to the maximum at the time. They were charging the maximum fare that all of the American Transit, the highest fare was $250 at the time. And they were charging that. Even New York was the same fare. And what happened to my other magnifying glass? Jesus Christ.
Think about it in inflation-adjusted terms, the buying power of those fares has gone down, and the cost to the individual has also declined as incomes have risen through inflation over time. Here's our fare structure compared to some of our peer agencies. These are transit districts that are similar in size and scope, have light rail as well as bus. And as you can see, we're on par with them in terms of our base fare.
They do have the best all-day
$250 per trip and $5 for a day fare. We're below Seattle, which is at $8. We're below Denver, which is at $10. We provide a substantial discount around our honored citizen program, so we're at $28, and all of the other peers are above that. We are very low on the low-income fare. The cost of our low-income fare program is very low compared to our peers, and that's on a par, obviously, with the honored citizen and youth. So our Our base fare is
They're higher than
similar
all
to
the other
what
ones.
other districts charge,
Except for
and
Denver's 200.
our discounted fares tend to be lower than what other districts similar to our size charge. Down at the bottom, you'll see an average, which is a little bit lower than ours. That actually includes a lot of smaller agencies than we are. So I mentioned that we have pretty good discounting programs. We also have free programs, and I'll just run through those real quickly. We have more than 30,000 applicants or participants in our low-income fare program at this point. That's more actually than we thought we would get at this point in the development of that program, and it continues to grow over time. We think there are something like 80,000 or so folks who on paper qualify for the low-income fare program in the region. They may or may not apply because they may not use transit, may not be a mode that they want to use, but there's obviously a bigger universe of folks out there who could qualify for the low-income fare program if they decided to apply for it. We have age-based discounts. Children under 6 aren't charged. 7 to 17 get the youth fare. Seniors over 65 and those who are disabled qualify for that same discount. And the low-income program downtown, which is different from the low-income fare program, actually provides a pass that's $5 a year, and they sign up for it once every 2 years. That's a very small program, but when we eliminated Fairless Square downtown, we implemented that program to reflect the fact that there are folks in very low-income situations in service programs downtown that still need to access services. And then obviously the disability-based program, which is the same as youth and seniors. In addition to those discounts, we have the Access Transit program, which allocates about $1 million in free passes. We distribute those through over 100 nonprofits in the region. And we also distribute about 1.2 million in discounted passes over the last 5 years to many of those same nonprofits. The Access Transit program was established in 2012 when we were doing a fare increase. It has a $1.2 million budget. We reduce tickets through those community-based organizations to their clients. Some of the community-based organizations further subsidize those passes, so there can be a mix of reduced cost or free, depending on how the community-based organization wants to use that benefit. We also make grants of up to $20,000 per CBO for them to distribute passes to their recipients, and then we do this update the program on an annual basis. And I know you're not going to be able to read this, but in your packet you have a slide that has this list of the community-based organizations that we work with, and it's really, really a broad cross-section of groups that work with the community, from Cascade AIDS Project to Centro Cultural to Right to Dream 2 and the Old Town Forest Grove Project. It really touches every corner of the region, and we're really proud of the relationship that we have with these organizations. One of the other discount programs that we have is our high school program. There's 2 components to this. One is a program that we call the Portland Public School model, but it's available to any transit or any school district around the region. This was established by the TriMet board a number of years ago, and it essentially offers any school district that if the school district interested in providing a universal pass
this is very
to
nice,
all of
but
its
who
high
gives
school
a
students,
shit?
then TriMet will discount our already discounted pass by an additional third. And TriMet will pick up that 1/3 of the cost of the face value of a student pass. And historically, Portland Public Schools is the only district that has participated in that program. And the reason for that is that PPS high schools, PPS does not provide yellow bus service to its high school students.
Right.
Under state law, it's the only district in the state that has an exemption from a yellow bus requirement. And they sought and received that exemption on the basis of the fact that TriMet provides equivalent service.
Mm-hmm.
What that state legislation did not do is solve the inequity that's created by that exemption, because high school students in other districts get yellow bus service for free, but high school students in Portland have to pay for their access to TriMet because the state does not give TriMet any resources to offset the cost of providing those passes. So PPS is able to participate in that program because they have cost savings from not providing yellow bus service. Other school districts outside of Portland have to provide the yellow bus service, and therefore they don't get any savings from
All right, what does this have to do with Fair Street
Transit? So they don't have additional
Can't you just get to the point?
To pay for the 2/3 of this program. The City of Portland did provide, historically, the City of Portland provided 1/3 of the cost of the PPS program, and the school district provided 1/3, and TriMet provided 1/3. The City of Portland, the City Council 2 years ago elected to discontinue that program. They allocated a portion of those funds to David Douglas and Park Rose, and we did extend that program to those districts for 2 years using the City of Portland money, but that money has now run out, or will run out at the end of this year. So we have that program, it's available, but it's not, other than Portland, it's not used. In addition, through the STIF program, which requires that 1% of STIF funds be allocated to a high school transportation program, we allocate about $500,000 a year to a student pass program that is allocated to school districts based on their population of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch program. So we take the total of free and reduced lunch populations in the region, we divide it by the high schools, and that gives them a factor. We apply that factor to the STIF funds and allocate the passes based on that factor. And then there are a number of schools around the district that don't apply for their allocated funds, and we recycle those resources back into the program for the neediest high schools, those that have the highest percentage of free and reduced lunch students. And then TriMet supplements that program with $200,000 of its own general fund resources. So the total program is about $700,000 a year. And then we do a number of other discounts. We have a summer scholars program where we provide about $200,000 in free passes to students during the summer so that they can complete their degrees, and a lot of those students are ones who will be completing their high school diploma over the course of the summer, and we really try to work with the districts to help them because we know once they leave the high school system, it becomes much more difficult for them to complete their degree. So we have, in addition to the $14,000 in the Portland Public Schools program, we have another $14,000 that we touch through these various programs. So a total of about 30,000 students altogether get some sort of additional discount on top of the student pass. I mentioned the low-income fare program. We have more than 30,000 enrolled. Our STIF expenditures are over $1 million now. Our program offers benefits to individuals who are at 200% or below the federal poverty level. That's a bit more generous than many of the low-income fare programs around the country. Many of them cap out at 150% of the federal poverty level. The discount is between 50 and 72%, depending on how much folks use. And we've partnered with social service organizations at 47 locations around the region to have them do the qualification for the program. So as they're qualifying their clients for their programs, they're also qualifying them for the low-income fare program so that individuals don't have to go through a two-step process.
All right, very nice. Come on, more.
As I mentioned, we're in pretty good company as far as
the
low-income fare program. There's only a handful of agencies around the country that offer a comprehensive low-income fare program such as ours. The only one that's bigger is Seattle, and they have been in place for 5 years. And they're the only one that's as generous as our program is.
They're more generous than yours.
And as you can see, some of these, like Minneapolis, they offer discounts, but they're limited to off-peak trips. And you'll find that with a lot of low-income fare programs that they limit to off-peak or certain days of the week and certain lines. Even some will restrict low-income riders only to certain lines, and we don't do that. It's for the entire system, including streetcar.
I guess not.
So the idea of eliminating fares often comes up, and there's a perception that eliminating fares could result in significant savings to the agency because we no longer have the cost of collecting fares. And to some extent, that's true.
So we're going to see here his excuses for not having. Most of the professionals, the professionals are against this. All of these career technocrats are against it. Let's hear his excuses.
We do have collection costs associated with collecting fare. We have fare boxes that we need to maintain and ticket vending machines that need to be maintained and so forth. And we have fare inspection staff. And back room, we have a money room where we count the collections. All told, that accounts for about $16 million in costs out of the $107 million that we collect in fare revenue. But we know from studying other districts that have tried free systems and our own experience with Fareless Square and the free rail zone that we won't be able to eliminate our fare inspection staff. They will go from fare inspection to code enforcement. In fact, that's one of the things that they do already. They don't spend all of their time on fare enforcement. They do a lot of work making sure that the system is safe and that folks are following the communitarian rules that allow the system to be welcoming to all users. Things like,
yes, we do need security on the trains. They're not on the trains. We've always said there needs to be security riding the trains, not just inspecting fares in packs of 10, like a pack of wolves. They travel in packs. There's no actual security riding the trains in like twos, like one on each car.
Telling folks that they can't smoke on the system and asking them to leave the rail car or the bus if they do smoke. Making sure that we don't have folks drinking alcoholic beverages on the system and coming onto the system impaired and unable to follow the protocols and the rules of civil engagement on the system. So they don't just collect fares. And so we won't be eliminating the fare inspectors if we eliminate fares. What they'll do is they'll become more focused on code enforcement and security. And we know that we'll have to add security on the system. The other transit systems around the country that have tried free systems have encountered significant problems with behavior and unruliness on the system, and that drives other customers off of the system and makes them vulnerable. And we need to make sure that the system is safe for all users. And so we know that we would have to add additional security and that there would be additional maintenance
No,
costs.
there wouldn't be additional. You just repurpose the ones you got now. What do you mean you have to do it? Just see, here you go. They're adding now. You see, they're saying, oh, if we get rid of the fare, we have to add this. Why? Yeah, this is garbage.
So, in essence, eliminating the cost of collecting fares is probably going to be a net neutral or even a net negative as we add more security to the system. So there isn't really a savings per se in eliminating fare revenue. In fact, there's a significant loss.
According to him, and his whole purpose is to show you why you can't do it. He is not he's got an agenda. We know this. We know that Kelsey's not for it. So he sent his henchman, Bernie Bottomly of the Bottomly family of Portland, some of the most connected people in Portland, to prove that you can't have it.
Because of that $100 million of revenue that we currently collect. So what would happen if we had a reduction of $100 to $117 million in revenue? Well, Farebox is 20% about of our operating budget. So one way to think about it is that...
Look at this. Oh my God, she is the goddamn editor of the Oregonian. Oh my God. I can't fucking believe it.
There would be financial pressure to reduce our operating expenses. That means less service. Now, we wouldn't necessarily take it all out of operations, as Doug was talking about the budget earlier. We have some other levers by reducing the rate at which we buy new buses and replacement buses and do maintenance on the system. But there's obviously, it's just like not painting your house and not re-roofing your house. At some point, the roof leaks and you're creating more damage to the system than if you had done regular maintenance. So it's impossible for us to be able to move enough levers to take $107 to $117 million reduction in operating resources and not impact services. There would be a significant reduction in service hours that would have to accompany an unfunded loss of that magnitude. Another way to think about it in terms of fares, and so we won't be eliminating the fare inspectors if we eliminate fares. What they'll do is they'll become more focused on code enforcement and security. And we know that we'll have to add security on the system. The other transit systems around the country that have tried free systems have encountered significant problems with behavior and unruliness on the system, and
you have that now, idiot.
That drives other customers.
You have it now, you stupid fool.
Makes them vulnerable, and we need to make sure that the system is safe for all users. And so we know that we would have to add additional security and that there would be additional maintenance costs on the system. So in essence, eliminating the cost of collecting fares is probably going to be a net neutral or even a net negative as we add more security to the system. So there isn't really a savings per se in eliminating fare revenue. In fact, there's a significant loss because of that $100 million of revenue that we currently collect. So what would happen if we had a reduction of $100 to $117 million in revenue?
Pay attention.
Well, Farebox is 20% about of our operating budget.
It's not.
So
it's not. Okay, we know that's not true. We've seen. Oh, here we go again. I have to look up everything to dispute it. It's not. It's not. Okay. All right. Let him talk while I fucking look it up again for the 5,000th fucking time. It was 13% the last time I looked at it, and he says it's 20. So he's lying. You know, they can just lie and lie and lie. Okay, let's see what we got here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, hold on. Here's the other shit. Yeah. All right, let's him talk while I watch, while I look.
One way to think about it is that
Look at this.
there would be
all of his fucking
pressure to reduce, financial pressure to reduce our operating expenses. That means less service. Now, we wouldn't necessarily take it all out of operations, as Doug was talking about the budget earlier. We have some other levers, like reducing the rate at which we buy new buses and replacement buses and do maintenance on this.
But he doesn't talk about any capital projects reductions. It's never there. That's never part of the discussion. Never.
System, but there's obviously, it's just like not painting your house and not re-roofing your house. At some point, the roof leaks, and you're creating more damage to the system.
You're just lucky nobody listens to me.
If you had done regular maintenance.
Come on, where's the phone?
So it's impossible for us to be able to move enough levers to take a $170 million reduction in operating resources and not impact services. There would be a significant reduction in service hours that would have to accompany an unfunded loss of that magnitude.
And that's a lie, because it's even using his figure, it's only 20. Even if you lost the entire fucking fare revenue, that would be a 20% reduction in fares, which is what you already did when the so-called COVID crisis started. You immediately reduced TriMet services 20%. You immediately did that.
Another way to think about it in terms of scale is that equates to almost 20 years on average of what we use, what we do to try to expand the system. So that it's the equivalent of not expanding the system.
Well, you shouldn't be expanding the fucking system anymore. That should be over. I gotta get a drink.
For almost
stupid fucks.
It's the equivalent in somewhere between 5 and 10 years of the cost of entirely replacing our diesel fleet with battery electric buses.
Like that's going to make any difference.
And then it's double the amount of new resources that we receive under the House Bill 2017 program. And I just note the legal implications.
All right,
there.
Stop. Okay. This in fiscal year 2021, the revenue TriMet forecast from fares covers approximately 62.4 million of the operating, or 8.5% of our operating expenses. See that? 8.5. Do you see that? Can you see that? I don't know if you can see it or not. Here, let me do a screenshot so you can see it. Look. Okay. Now, here, look. 8.5% of our operating, down from 16%. He said 20%. He lied. Okay, now they're projecting 8.5%. I just wanted you to see that because I just showed you he lied on their. I'm using their own figures here. That's what I want you to see that he lied. So now you know that he's lying. I've just proven that to you. He lied with he's bald-faced lied to the board. He said 20% and it's 8.5%.
As we discussed earlier, has provisions in it that prevent agencies from reducing their own effort. So if we were to reduce our fares, there would be difficulty in using House Bill 2017 funds to backfill for those lost dollars, because the expectation under that legislation is that the local effort will continue, including how much fares contribute to the services.
Yeah, that's a weak. Look, HB 217 tax grab was to add to existing service. Okay, we just showed you that 6% of fares. We just showed it to you. 8%. is covered by fares. We just showed you that.
So now turning to look at other free or partially free systems. There are lots of little websites on the internet that talk about how there are these many free systems around the country. And what happens is, if you look at those in a little bit more detail, what you find is most of them aren't really free.
No, they're paid out of general revenue.
Line or a free area, like TriMet used to have a Fearless Square. Most of those systems have very limited free areas or free lines.
How about the city in...
there are 28 that are completely free. Overwhelmingly, those are tiny transit systems. They exist in cities the size of Tualatin in our area. Most of them are college or tourist towns. Breckenridge and Park City, a lot of them rely on a significant influx of people from outside the community, and the local tax base is relies on the sales tax, or like in Park City and Breckenridge, on the influx of tourism dollars to the community and hotel motel taxes. So very few have any significant robustness to their transit system. Most of them have on the order of about 8 bus lines. They run very infrequently. They have little or no evening service. They have little or no weekend service, and most of them are seasonal. So even in Corvallis, the system basically shuts down in the summertime when the college students are not there. And most of those free systems are funded through a city or county sales tax.
Of course.
And the trade-off here is that the additional ridership that's gained from a free system is made up in the fact that those people are traveling to stores and other destinations where they're spending money, and the local jurisdiction is recouping those costs through the sales tax. And in all these cases,
Luxembourg is following dozens of cities in making public transit free. Luxembourg just became the first country in the world to make its entire public transit system free. As of March 1st, all trams, trains, buses will not cost a penny anywhere in the small nation. Although Luxembourg is home to 1 million people, which is about the size of Portland, it's the first country to institute such a policy. Some 97 cities around the world have introduced free public transportation. Okay, so it's not something unusual. It's just they don't want you to do it here. They want that money, man. In Tallinn, Estonia, for example, a 2016 report found 3 years of free transit lifted ridership rates. By the 2000, after bus lanes is replaced, whatever, man.
The organizations are part of another entity, so they're part of a city or they're part of a county, so they get the benefit of those sales tax dollars funneled through to them to offset the free fare. This chart, I know it's going to be small for you, is just a graphical way of trying to illustrate the difference in scale between TriMet and the other free systems that are out there. A lot of people point to Kansas City and say, oh, it's free, it's free. The truth of the matter is that Kansas City has announced that they're going to be free as soon as they figure out how to pay for it. And so far, they haven't figured out how to pay for it. So I put them in kind of a lighter color here because, in fact, they're not actually a free system at this point. So in terms of all the relevant measures, the number of vehicle hours, the operating budget, the number of vehicles that we put out in maximum service, and the number of trips, TriMet is 300, 400, 500, 1,000% bigger than these other districts. There is no comparison between what we put out on a daily basis, the number of people that we serve and the density of service that we have compared to those free systems. It's just they're not apples and oranges. They're atoms and planets in terms of their scale. There are a couple of systems around the country and around the world who have gone to free that are a little bit bigger and more along our scale: Denver, Colorado, and Austin, Texas. The results of those experiments are that they did see ridership increases. They saw significant security problems. The frontline staff, the operators, had extremely negative experiences with those systems because of the inability to provide
That's your neoliberal.
and
you don't pay for it, you don't
both,
appreciate it.
the passengers as well as the employees. And because of those outcomes and the costs, those programs were discontinued within a year or two. Free systems generally have a very small percentage of their revenue that comes from the fare box, 3, 4, 5%.
And so do you
whereas we're
fuck,
in
I just read it to
20%
you.
Or higher range.
Like you mean?
Some systems
like 8.5%?
have gone fareless
like
because they are in a category under the federal rules that they actually get more federal resources if they get rid of their fares because they're poorer. TriMet is not in that category. If we get rid of fares, we simply lose money and we don't get any more federal resource to make up that difference. Most of those that have gone free have been accompanied by some kind of infusion of outside resource, a new tax, or the local jurisdiction, the city or the county, agreeing to fund them. In Corvallis, it was a utility tax that was levied on all residents of the city to pay for the free system. As I mentioned, most of them have found significant onboard behavior problems. Folks who are using the system not to get from point A to point B, but
you're already having the onboard behavior problems now with your fares. You have assaults related. It's the. All right, I gotta cut it. How long have I gone here? Okay, I gotta cut this. I can't take any more of this nonsense today. We'll finish tomorrow, hopefully.